you guys. Welcome back to It's Abundance, the podcast. I am your host, Addie, and I'm so glad that you're here. So I have a unfortunate event. I actually already recorded like a 45-minute episode talking about this exact thing, and I went back and looked at the audio, and I didn't hit there's a certain setting on just like the recording equipment, and I didn't hit it. And I'm just like, I started to think last night. I was like, I've been doing this for almost 3 years, and I still don't feel like I have the hang of it. I don't know. I just feel like God is just humbling me so much, but it's okay. We're here today, and it's going to be great. We're going to do it again, and maybe I just didn't say something and the Lord just really wants it to be said. So we're just going to look at it in a positive light. So hello and happy whatever day it is. I'm so glad that you are here. I love you, and I love that you choose to put me in your ear and you choose to play me in your car, because I don't know, I'm just a girl that has this space and this opportunity to share things, and I'm honored, just genuinely honored to be able to do it. So I talked a little bit about this on my Instagram story the other day. And I was talking about so I have been doing content for about 3 years now. And if you don't know what I do like social media. I'm a social media manager as like my 9 to 5. Like that's my stable like income job. And then I do this on the side, which I've been doing for also 3 years. And it's just been, the last 3 years has just been content, like creating, editing, posting, scheduling, and then a lot of comparing and wishing that my content was doing something that it isn't doing. And it's just a lot of back and forth, and I've gone through these like burnout phases, and I've shared that with you guys. I feel like I've been pretty open about things I struggle with as far as just like content goes. But I started to think about just how this even started. And when I go through these phases of being like burnt out and exhausted and just comparing myself over and over again to other people and other people's content, I feel like this week, in the last couple of weeks, God has just kind of been bringing me back to like why I started and why this all happened. And it's not for me. Like this space, the Abundant Co, the podcast, none of this is for me, and it's not to build my kingdom. And it's always the moments when I try to make it about me that I feel exhausted and burnt out. And like, is that not exactly what I preach here? So I just got to just kind of thinking about why this all started and how this all happened. And I have shared a lot about my story. And so this episode in this like series that I'm kind of introducing here is not going to be about my story. If you want to hear about my story, I have so many different episodes, and I will link them in the description. And then I also wrote 2 books about it. So I'm not going to be yapping. Don't worry about my story. I feel like I talk about it all the time. But a little background about like how I became saved. From my eating disorder, I came out of it, and our church that I grew up going to they do these beach baptisms. So I'm from Michigan, and if you don't know what Lake Michigan is, it is essentially like a freshwater ocean. It is massive, and every summer they go out there and they take a bunch of kids and a bunch of students and adults and all different generations to be baptized in Lake Michigan. And in 2021, I was 14 years old, and I decided that I wanted to get baptized. And so I went out to Lake Michigan and I was baptized. And then we go into like this big, essentially just like a church. I'm blanking on like a name for it, but we did worship and there's testimonies. And I was like, I just really feel like I need to share my testimony. And so I ended up I wrote out this thing because I loved writing, but I wrote out like this Word doc of my story from just literally death to life. Like I grew up in the church, and just the story, encountering the Lord in Tennessee when I was on this church trip, and just all these different little things. And I remember I was so nervous and so shaky. And I remember afterwards, just this like surplus of people that I didn't even know existed just would come up to me and give me a hug, and one tell me how great I was. And I was like, oh, like, thank you. Like, what do you say? Like, oh, thanks, whatever. But then also like, I relate so much with what you're saying. Like there were so many girls that were like, I feel this way, and like I would love to talk to you afterwards. And I was just kind of like, wow, like, oh, this is really cool. But little did I know that was just a small ounce of what was going to happen, of what God was doing. And yeah, and from that moment on, I think he continued to push me forward. Like, it wasn't baptize and be good to go. It was baptize and go out. Like, I talk about that all the time. Like, he doesn't hang us up on a coat rack. He sends us back out. And that is exactly, I feel like, what he did. And I ended up writing a book, and I kind of did things backwards. I wrote the book, and then I started the business, and then I've reached so many people across countries and states and in different seasons and walks of life. Yeah, and it just reminds me that, like, God is so much greater than anything. Like, I had no idea at 14 what my life was going to look like. I still have no idea what my life is going to look like. But to look back at that and then to see the Abundant Co now, I'm just reminded of just the struggle that I went through. Like, I'm reminded of the hurt that I walked in, and the one that pulled me out of that, and that's the heartbeat behind all of it. And so anyway, all that to say, the reason that the Abundant Co started was because of my struggle with anorexia, and because of what I understand about food and about body and about our identity. And I love talking about it. And I was sharing on my Instagram story the other day, just like, this is what I want to do. I want to spend a handful of weeks, I don't know how long, but a handful of weeks of just talking about this kind of stuff. I think it's fun. I think I just have a lot of knowledge in it because I went through it, and I feel like there are people that relate with it, but we tend to be a little bit taboo in it. Like, there are definitely, don't get me wrong, so many people that talk about it and that bring light to eating disorders and bring light to disordered things, but I don't know. We just need to bring it back on the Abundant Co. So anyway, all that to say, we're going to be talking about the difference between discipline and disordered habits. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a professional in any sort, but I did walk through it. So I'm coming at this with my own experience, and I'm going to put a trigger warning now. Like, obviously we're talking about body image, and there's going to be things that come up throughout these next few weeks that are embarrassing on my part, things that I did. I'm going to do an episode on that, I think. And then there's just things that could be triggering. So if you're somebody that is struggling food and stuff, I want you to listen to this, but I also want you to just kind of like use discernment of like, is this something that you should be listening to or not? So yeah, but we're going to be talking about the difference between discipline and disordered habits, and it might be different for you, but I'm coming at it with my perspective. And I want to preface that I am a type A perfectionist type of person, so a lot of this is kind of opposite for people. I was talking with a friend last night, and their personality is more of like was like loosey-goosey, did everything, whatever he wanted, go with the flow. And then the Lord kind of brought them to a spot in life where they were reminded, or brought to a spot in life where they needed to be a little bit more disciplined and to have that wisdom. So it's not like discipline this is where it gets so tricky, because I feel like discipline is the line for discipline is so blurry, because we see things, and I don't know if it's just my TikTok algorithm and it's just what I'm seeing. And I swear to you guys, I don't consume that much content, but also, yes, I do. But I feel like my algorithm is just so full of like this discipline diaries, and like people like, here's everything I do in a day, and this is, I wake up at this time every single day and I do this and I bought this trend. And it's just like vibration plates. You guys, do you know what that is? I said it in another episode and I didn't really feel like anyone knew what that was. But there's like all of these different things, all of these different like health and wellness type of things where it's illustrated as discipline and this like beautiful lifestyle. And then I'm like, okay, I'm looking at it from a perspective of like, okay, this is great, but where is the line between this is great discipline and it is leading me towards Christ versus this is an obsession with myself? Because for me, discipline just turned into disordered habits. It became, once I removed a God, I made a God of myself. And this is why I feel like self-love is stupid. Like, I got rid of an eating disorder, and then it became like all about me and all about myself. And then so as soon as I got rid of the eating disorder as a God, I made myself an idol. Like, I don't know, it's just so messed up. And I feel like our world is fed it so much, and I don't know if it's just because I'm on social media so much, and I want to be hesitant because I know that discipline is good and that we are actually called to that, but we're called to this like wisdom-based discipline, right? In Proverbs 1:7 says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So we don't want to be a fool. We are called to seek wisdom and to seek knowledge and to seek that understanding and that consistency and that routine. But it's like, where's the line between this is good and this is what God has called me to versus this is an idol and I'm obsessing over it and I'm making it a God. So anyway, that's what we're talking about today. And it's important that we remember that not everything that looks like discipline is healthy discipline. And that's kind of what I want the framework here to be, is that discipline can be good, but where is it when it's not? Like, where does that fall for you personally? So I want this to be self-evaluation. I'm coming at this from me struggling with an eating disorder, struggling with that balance of things. Like, okay, I was also talking to a friend last night, and I was saying about how I grew up like being the type A perfectionist. Like it almost felt inevitable that I was going to have an eating disorder. Not saying that like I knew I was going to, or that people knew I was going to, or any of that sort of thing. But like even from just an early age, like I was in therapy by 3rd grade. I was struggling so much with anxiety. I had separation anxiety. I felt like if I got on the bus, my mom was going to die. If she was out of my sight, she was going to die, or something bad was going to happen to the people that I loved. And I couldn't do anything to control that. And then throughout my life was just a series of events of things that I couldn't control. And then by age 12, I still didn't know the Lord as my Lord and Savior. He was still a side dish. And then it turned into this eating disorder because that was something I could control. My food and my calories and my exercise, I could control those things. But I couldn't control whether or not my mom something bad was gonna happen to her while I was gone. And so that's where I'm coming from. So if you're the opposite, take this with a grain of salt and maybe just learn something. I don't know. We'll just let the Lord work through this, but that's me, and that's where I'm coming from. So not everything that looks like discipline is actually healthy discipline, and not everything that is difficult or hard is disordered. The difference is not your appearance, because eating disorders don't have a look. Even somebody that's disciplined doesn't have a look. It's the fruit. It's motivation. It's the internal posture. It's the internal fruit. What is being produced in you is how we can differentiate between disorder and discipline. There's a version of discipline that brings so much freedom and so much joy. And it's when we can find that consistency in our Bible time and in our routine. The discipline of getting involved in a church and in a community. Like those things can bring so much freedom in our walk with the Lord and in our faith journey. But then there's also a version where our discipline can become obsessive. And it looks like maybe you chose discipline in the food realm and you just want to be healthy and you want to steward your body well. But there's a version of it that can become an obsession, and it can become an idol where you remove God out of it almost entirely. And he's no longer just a side dish or, a Bible verse in your Instagram bio like we always talk about, but he's like absent. He's gone from that whole plan of discipline. Most of us don't even know which way we're going until we're knee deep or further in it. We're up to our neck. So in this episode, I want to break down patterns of discipline versus disorder. We're not labeling things. There's no look to it. That was something that they said, like so many therapists said in the, like, Miss My Eating Disorder, like eating disorders don't have a look, and they're individual for everyone. So what are the patterns? What are the mindsets? What is being produced in us? Ultimately, the way that we can find the line between these two is what's the fruit that is being produced in us. So why I feel like I want to ask this question of like, why is it so confusing to find the difference between them? And I think it's because social media has glamorized discipline. And this might just be me, it might just be my crazy algorithm, but I just consistently see people doing 75 hard, starting new workout programs, the GLP-1s, and comparing what I eat in a day. Like there is this girl on TikTok that keeps posting her what I eat in a day, and she is clearly struggling with an eating disorder, and people in the comments are ripping her apart or praising her. And it's like, what on earth? Like, I don't even know what to even think of this anymore. Everyone's opinions are poured into the comments, and we don't even get a chance to try to discern between disorder or discipline in our own brains, because social media is just kind of messy. It's just so messy. And I feel like along with that is like the wellness culture is praising restriction as healthy, and making it look like eating as little as possible and exercising so much and counting our macros and labeling things as good and bad, and doing this Whole Foods and anti-inflammatory, like just all of these different things and all these different diets and programs, and it's like, oh, they're so disciplined. Or are they just really genuinely obsessed with themselves and obsessed with making and morphing themselves into something that they are not? Eating disorders just don't have an extreme look anymore. They have been very hidden, and that is one of the enemy's like greatest schemes, I feel like, is we like to see things visually as humans, right? Like I feel like that's a lot of times where people don't believe in God, is because they can't see God. They can't see his figure and see his face like that and tangibly touch him. And the same is true with this. If we can't see the eating disorder, it must not be an eating disorder. This reminds me, my grandma used to always say this. It was kind of just like a joke, but whenever I was over at my grandma's house, whenever we were like talking about certain like food or like desserts or whatever, and they'd say, if it's good, then it's good for you. And it's just like a funny little saying. And this kind of reminds me of that. Like our culture says, like, if it looks good, then it must be good. And again, like, does this not remind you of the garden? Like Adam and Eve. Eve was like, that looks good. That fruit looks good. It must be good. It must be something that I need. It must be something for me. We've been trained to evaluate health by how it looks rather than the internal fruit that it is going to produce. Is it going to produce something good, life-giving, kingdom building? Or is it building something that is building an idol of myself? Am I going to make an idol of this thing? Is it producing pride? Is it producing idolatry? Is it producing a sin? It's like ever since I moved, all my equipment is like just out of place, and I just haven't been able to like get a routine back into how it should be. I also kind of want to get a new camera and a new microphone. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, where was I? So in this episode, I want to kind of talk to you guys again about personal things and things that I noticed in my own life where I wanted to take a look at what actually healthy discipline in my heart and in my life is good. What were things that I did that were producing good fruit within me? What were things that were producing life-giving, kingdom-building habits in my life? And it was definitely not restriction or dieting. Like, you guys, keto is so stupid. Ugh, I'm sorry. I feel like some of this stuff is controversial, but it shouldn't be. Like, these quick fixes are just these little gods that you make of yourself. It reminds me of just like when the Israelites would make these gold statues. Like, I remember reading scripture and like realizing what the Israelites were doing and why God was so angry with them, and just seeing why God was so frustrated and like just saddened as they're making these golden, worshiping golden calves and stuff. And I'm like, that's so stupid. Like, why would you even do that? Like, obviously, like that's not a God. That's not going to save you. And then I'm like, dang, that's kind of what I'm doing. Like, maybe they were worshiping a golden calf, but me worshiping an eating disorder, me worshiping my own body, like that's pretty lame in and of itself. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so here are some things that healthy discipline was for me. And again, this might be different for you. But the first thing was being flexible. So again, like I said, like I came from this very rigid mindset. And so me being flexible, me being okay with things like letting go of control of food and being okay if my day today doesn't look the same as it did yesterday, being okay if we go out to eat, or being okay with my schedule changing, or not being able to get a workout in. Like, that was discipline. That was a healthy version of discipline for myself, was being okay if things weren't consistent. And so then the contrary to that would be like, somebody that maybe doesn't ever have a structured way of living and a structured, healthy lifestyle. Maybe that isn't discipline for you. Maybe discipline for you is being consistent and is limiting the time that you go out so that you can be closer to the Lord. Everything that we do in this section and in this life and in our health and wellness lifestyle should be leading us to Christ, because when it's not, it is a God. The next thing is things that are sustainable. So again, like keto is stupid. Okay, intermittent fasting, it doesn't make sense for me. These aren't sustainable things. Living in a restriction mindset, living in a binge and restrict, or in a obsessiveness over exercise, that isn't sustainable. That isn't going to lead me to life and life abundantly, like it says in John 10:10. These things are only leading us to our death. They are fleeting and they are exhausting. It's funny how many times I can worship myself and I can make a goal or a plan. Like if I'm getting vulnerable here, you guys. Oh, also, I never even said this, but I should include this. We're kind of starting a series over here where I'm going to be talking about just food and stuff, and I want to do different things where I talk about different habits in my life, but I think that they'll naturally come up through these episodes. But anyway, we're just going to do a series of them. I don't know how long it's going to be, maybe like 4 weeks. But yeah, I just want to share it with you guys and just kind of get vulnerable and bring light to this darkness of disordered eating and disordered lifestyle. One thing that I used to always do was like plan out my meals. Whether it was subconsciously or I even did it in a notebook, I used to do that, and it wasn't sustainable. Like my lifestyle was to continue to lose weight. You know, like in like gym, a lot of like gym girls or like just people that are in the gym, which is not me, but they talk about progressive overload, where like in order to build muscle, you have to lift more weight. So each session you're lifting more so that you can build. For me, it was each day I wanted to eat less calories so that I could get smaller and smaller. But where is the top and bottom here? Like, where is it enough? Where is enough? Because when you're going down this path of restriction, and like I could do, 1,800 calories, 1,600 calories, 1,200 calories. And at what point do I get down to zero and then I am nothing? And that was kind of where my stopping point happened. And I met the Lord because I was about to die. And so when we're looking at our life and we're looking at the patterns, it's like, what is sustainable? And if you look at the pattern of lifestyle that you're going down right now, if it's not sustainable, it's likely disordered. It's likely no longer this holy, wisdom-based discipline that we're called to in Proverbs. Rather, it's this obsession and idolization of ourselves. The other thing is what I'm doing in this lifestyle producing peace within me? That overwhelming, never-ending, unexplainable peace that we get from the Holy Spirit. Is that what is being produced in me, or is it this fear-based mindset of if I don't do this, I will fail, or I will become fat and ugly and stupid and unworthy and unlovable? Is it producing lies, or is it producing peace? Okay, the inconsistency in this room for like lighting is crazy. But anyway, what were we talking about? I just posted on my story on Instagram, like real time. I want to know if you guys on Instagram struggle with the difference between understanding disordered habits and being disciplined. I'm just so curious if people like relate with this and on what level. So anyway, healthy discipline is peace producing over time in that consistency and in that routine. Is peace being produced, or is it fear? And then along with that is what I'm doing aligned with my values? Is it aligned with what I've learned in the church? Is it aligned with my faith? Is it aligned with my goal of eternity? Is it aligned with what is to come? Or is it this fear inside of me of this world not liking me or loving me or persecuting me? And then the last one is to be able to adapt without panicking and getting upset and scared. And this is something that in the midst of that, in my eating disorder, I really, really struggled with. Like anytime somebody would come up with like hey, let's go out to dinner tonight, or hey, you should add this to your coffee, or you should add this on top of your food, like additional calories. It just seemed unnecessary, and it seemed it didn't fit within it. Even if I wasn't even tracking macros, it just didn't feel right. Like I couldn't do it because it was out of the ordinary, it was out of the plan, and it was gonna do something to me. I know this sounds insane. When I say it out loud, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But also, like, if you're struggling with that, that's not being disciplined. That's being unable to adapt. That's being unavailable to the messiness of this world. It's being unavailable to just saying yes and honestly having joy. The thing is that if it's holy discipline, if it's that good wisdom-based discipline, like I talk about in Proverbs, that we have been called to, the wisdom and knowledge and understanding of the Lord, if that is the type of discipline that we're striving for, it shouldn't be shrinking us. Discipline should support our life, not try to shrink it. Discipline doesn't make us want to morph ourselves into something different. It shouldn't make us want to change who we are. It should be supporting our life and drawing us nearer to God. It should be drawing us to the kingdom. I've had to learn that, like, I can rest without feeling guilty. I can take a rest day. I can sleep in, you guys. And again, like, this is coming from somebody that over and over again would just force myself to get up even if I only got 1 hour of sleep, force myself to work out even if I was sick, would force myself to, not eat something because of what I did the night before. But I can rest, and I can rest because of Christ. And if it's not aligned with that, if our lifestyle isn't aligned with what the Bible says, if it is not biblically based, it is not discipline. It is a disorder. It is making God of ourselves. I've had to learn that I can eat without compensating thinking. So this is another thing that I really, really just is huge, a part of my life. And it's still something that I struggle with to this day, is like this mindset of like, I ate this previously, or I'm going to eat this in the future. And so right now I have to do whatever it is to like compensate for what is going to come or what did happen. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, for example, like say I knew I was going to get ice cream at the end of the day. In the middle of the day, I would think about, okay, I'm going to get ice cream later, so I can't have this right now because of what I'm going to have later. Or another example would be yesterday was Easter, and I ate too much, quote unquote, too much. So today I can't eat as much. Like, that's the compensation. And that was kind of my definition of food noise, was like, even in the middle of a meal, I was thinking about the next meal or the previous meal. And there was never this presentness. Like, we've been called, that's another thing. It's like, we have been called to be present, to not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough worries of itself. And so if you're in that state of mind where you're thinking about the future, you're thinking about the past of what you ate or how you moved or whatever, that is a disorder. That's not discipline. That is not the wisdom and the sound mind that God has called you to. So we've looked at what that is. So what are the patterns of disordered habits? So again, this is me, my personal life, but it was always, and this is kind of just reiterating what I said, but disordered habits for me, and I'm not diagnosing here, okay? I'm not diagnosing you. I'm just simply saying the things that happen in my life and in anorexia for me. And it was rigid rules around food or movement. So like I just said, like categorizing things as good and bad. So, carbs are bad, fats are bad, or whatever. Sugar is bad. In fact, at one point I was thinking that fruits were bad because they were high in sugar, which whatever, that's so stupid. If anybody ever tells you that, run the other way. Fruits are not bad. Or rigid rules around movement, right? Like I just said, like if I didn't move, like work out the day before, I have to work out this day, I have to work out extra, or if I didn't work out that day, I have to eat less, or just any of that stuff. And then there's like I said, the moral labels around food, good and bad, or too high in sugar. Like, do you know what is being pushed so much that kind of irks my soul? And I actually, not gonna lie, have kind of fallen into it, but it's like that high protein mindset, okay? Everyone and their mother is just obsessed with protein right now. And it's like, you guys, we are making an idol of protein right now. Anyway, that could be a whole topic in and of itself, in biblical dieting, biblical eating. But anyway, labeling things good and bad, that compensation thinking, like I need to fix this later on. And then this one is where Holy Image was kind of born out of. And it's that identity is tied to consistency. That is a disordered habit. And this is a deep habit, okay? But like when your identity is based on how well you do or how consistent you are throughout your week or throughout a month or throughout your 75 hard challenge, if that's who you are, you're in a disordered pathway, okay? You're headed towards destruction. You're headed towards death, quite frankly, okay? I get so passionate about this, you guys, because I spent so much of my life believing that the consistency of my workouts and my routine and how well I could do determined how good of a person I was. And if you look at my life, I see this all throughout middle school and into my eating disorder. But in school, you guys, I was obsessed with being consistently, like, I was known as I think as soon as I was labeled as like the perfectionist, that became my identity. That was who I was. And even now, like, I now feel convicted about how I opened up this podcast talking about how I'm just a consistent person and how I'm a type A, because that's not who I am. That's a part of my characteristics. Like, that's how kind of God has designed me, but it's also a fault. It's also a sin. But yeah, when your identity is tied up in those things, it's no longer discipline. It's you giving into Satan's schemes. So a vulnerable, very, very, very vulnerable thing that I am hesitant to share. And I kind of wanted to wait and share this on like the habits or like things that I did in my eating disorder, but I'm just going to share it anyway. So when I was about 11 years old, and this was right before just the eating disorder kind of developed right away, I really genuinely looked in the mirror and thought that I was the ugliest person alive. I thought I was fat and that I needed to change myself. And this was kind of like when it wasn't Tumblr, but like Pinterest was like the new Tumblr. So there wasn't, I'm sure there was a lot of cute, like fun DIY stuff on there, but my algorithm for Pinterest, this was probably one of the main social medias I had, was mostly dieting and recipes and exercises. And I was scrolling on Pinterest and I felt like I needed to do a workout. And so I found this workout plan, and this is so embarrassing and so, so sad. But I felt like I had hip dips. Like, I felt like Pinterest was telling me that I have terrible hip dips and I need to fix them. And so I started this, like, I don't even know if it was like a 20-day, 25-day workout plan where I would get rid of my hip dips. And I opened up my Snapchat. This was another social media I had, I guess. I opened up Snapchat and I recorded day one of getting rid of my hip dips. And I was taking like progress photos and I was picking away at my skin. And it was awful. It was so sad. But my identity was tied to that. Like, if I could be consistent for these X amount of days, the 25 days, then that was good. Then I would, I would look good and I would become the version of myself that I wanted, that I desired, and that other people would love and would praise. And yeah, and that's why I wrote Holy Image, was because our identity is not wrapped up in our consistency. It is not wrapped up in the way that we look or who we are. That doesn't make us a Christian. Our Bible says our devotions don't make us a Christian. What we are devoted to doesn't make us a Christian or not a Christian, but it is a direct reflection of where you're headed. What you are devoted to is a direct reflection of where you are headed, destruction or life abundantly. And then the last one is just that like fear-based decision making. So making decisions based off of, again, what's coming or the fear of calories. Like, I was so scared to add like any sauces to things because it seemed so unnecessary and unimportant. Like, I couldn't add milk to my coffee because I was too scared. Again, like disorders don't always look extreme, but sometimes it just looks like being inflexible and unable to adapt to things. So where is the line? Where is the line for you? When we're looking at this and we're looking at disorderedness and we're looking at discipline, where is it for you? The line is not how clean you're eating or what diet you're following. It's not how consistent your morning or evening routine is, or even how consistent you are in going to church, you guys. It's not, discipline isn't even how you look or how you appear to other people. What it is what happens internally when things change. What is being produced in you? When your routine is out of whack, are you still seeking the Lord? Do your values shift? Are you forgetting or not seeing the creator of the universe? The line is what drives the behavior. Is it fear, or is it that deep longing to steward your body? Is it stewardship? Is it remembering that like the creator of the universe designed this body, and this is why I'm behaving this way. This is why I'm choosing to be disciplined, is because the creator of the universe designed this and then sent his only son to bleed out on a cross for this very body. And so therefore I'm going to be disciplined in the way that I steward it, the way that I feed it, and the way that I move it. Or is it that fear of what other people think of, and that's why I'm doing it? The line is what the behavior produces. Is it producing the peace, or is it producing anxiety? Is it making you squirm in your seat because you just can't figure out a routine or it got messed up? Or is it producing this peace and awe and reverence of the Creator? Discipline is supposed to expand our life and bring like freedom. And disorder, the only goal is to shrink your life, to make it smaller, to make it seem like you just never have enough. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12 says, everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Food is for the stomach, and the stomach for food, and God will do away with both of them. However, the body is not for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. So, obviously this verse is about sexual immorality, but it applies to this very thing, because sexual immorality leads away from God. It goes on to say, God raised up the Lord and will also raise us up by his power. Don't you know that your bodies are a part of Christ's body? Sexual immorality leads us away from that oneness and that unity with Christ, and so does disordered habits. So this applies to this because everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. This says, I will not be mastered by anything. Food is for the stomach, and the stomach for food, and God will do away with both of them. We are God's. We belong to God. Our identity is in him. He has adopted us as his sons and daughters. And if what we're doing does not point in that direction, does not point to God the Father, then he is no longer a part of our life. Like that's not discipline. That is like just self-idolatry, self-righteousness, because you have completely removed God from that. He's, again, no longer a Bible verse in your bio. He's absent. So this is where I feel like we miss it as Christians, is that it starts out as feeling like you're, girl power, right? It makes you feel maybe even feministic. I don't know if that's even a word, but like a feminist. You've got it all under control. You're independent. You're like, for me, yeah, heck yeah. When you can buy a house on your own and you can do these things on your own, you can, have a routine by yourself. That's incredible. That's self-empowerment. But then it starts to feel necessary. It feels like something that you have to do. You have to eat this way. You have to look this way. You have to exercise this way. And then it becomes your identity. It becomes who you are. When you don't do it, you don't know who you are. You feel out of whack. And that's where it gets so scary. And then it becomes fear-driven maintenance. Out of fear, you continue to maintain this. You try to maintain this front, and it leads to burnout and exhaustion. What started as like the whole, I'm just being disciplined and I'm just starting this new diet, slowly becomes like, I can't not do this. I have to do this. And if I don't know who I am. When your identity isn't in Christ, it's in something else. If God isn't Lord over your life, something else is. Any discipline that is bringing up constant fear or anxiety or self-condemnation is worth bringing back to God. So I kept saying that like God is absent in that. And I don't mean that as in God is literally absent, because actually he is omnipresent, but he is absent in your mind and in your life, in your heart, the way that you're living. But he's there and he sees it and he knows it. He knows that you are living in this crazy, constant fear, anxiety-driven, self-discipline, disordered way of living. But it's worth bringing it back to God, because that's not the fruit of peace. Fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And if it doesn't fall under one of those things, then it's likely leading you to anxiety. God has fruit that he wants to produce in you, and I can promise you it has nothing to do with the way that you're feeling. It has nothing to do with that constant fear and anxiety and pressure to perform. And the goal here, you guys, is not to become less disciplined and loosey-goosey. The goal is to become more honest about what's actually leading us. What is leading us in life? Is it our faith? Is it our trust in the Lord? Is it fear? Or is it that stewardship of our own bodies? I hope that this makes sense. What leads us to freedom is different than what is going to lead us to destruction, and we just have to figure out what it is in our life. Like, where are we falling in this? One leads us to freedom, and the other one is slowly making us feel like we're not allowed to even rest at all. So I hope that this inspired you, made you think. I hope that it convicted you in maybe a way that you're living right now. I would also love to hear like what you guys, I should check the Instagram if anyone even responded. But I hope that this just leaves you, I don't know, moved, touched. But I would love to hear like what goes on in your heart. Like, where do you struggle with food? Where do you struggle with body image and self-love? Okay, it looks like we've got a few votes. We have 7 votes, and all 7 said yes, they struggle with that. So that clears that up. All right, you guys, I love you so very much. I'm excited to continue this series and see what happens and see where the Lord leads it, and just share with you guys like nitty-gritty stuff, and I don't know, just bring us back to this mission so that we can live not just in this crazy, weird world of self-loathing. I love you guys. I'm praying for you, and I will see you next week. What if your reflection wasn't the problem? What if the way you saw yourself was never meant to be shaped by the world, but by the one who created you? Holy Image isn't just another feel better about your body type of book. It's an honest, freeing conversation about identity, about what happens when your worth is no longer tied in the mirror or a number or a standard that keeps on changing. This book is for the one who's tired of striving, comparing, and fixing everything. It's for the one who wants to finally rest in who she is in Christ, not halfway healed, but wholly known, fully known. It's real stories, biblical truth, and a reminder that your image was never broken in the first place. It was always made holy. You can grab a copy of this book today and join me in reading it at www.theabundantco.net. That's www.theabundantco.net. All right, I love you guys and excited for you to read this book.